Hello guys, welcome back to another video. This one's going to be a little bit different because I'm going to be doing a tutorial type video here. I'm going to be teaching you how to make this video. Maybe not exactly like where the walls are being placed. You will be able to make your own video or own type thing going on here. So I'll be teaching you how to texture everything, UV mapping, compositing. Compositing is a huge part in this, getting this VHS look and everything like that. So without wasting any time, let's get to doing this under an hour. So this is the actual build we have going on here. So it looks like in the normal workshop mode, wireframe. It's not that hard at all. This is from my other tutorial that I did, but I figured I could do this faster and easier. So that's basically what it is right there. There's the camera, and you can see it just walks down a little path and ends. So let's create a new folder So here we are with the default cube. There's some things that you're gonna need to learn, I'll teach you so you don't have to look somewhere else for anything. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go into edit mode, which you press tab, and this is the vertex mode. So you'll see it manipulates precise vertexes that you would like. We're not gonna be using this very often. Next is the edge mode, which you can select loops, which is not working for me right now, but can. This selects the edge, and you can manipulate the edge, of course. And face mode. This is what we're going to be using right now. So go into face mode, select the top and the bottom. Shift click the bottom, top, press delete. It'll bring up this menu. This is delete menu. And delete the faces. So now you're left with these walls. For me, I'm going to move these up by maybe about a half. So I'm going to go in vertex mode and I'm going to move them up. You don't have to, but I think it provides a better result. So what I just did, I selected these four, press G, press tab twice to cycle to the Z coordinate, and typed 0.5 on my keyboard, and it will move them up by 0.5 increments. So now we have kind of a tall wall here. Let's set up the material for this. Go into shading, call this wall, so we're organized, and plug in your wall texture. Usually you can just drop it in from your file explorer, but there's also, if you do image texture, you can find it on your computer through open. But I'm just going to drag and drop it because it's easier that way. So you put it right there, and I'm going to use the bump node. On every texture you want, except maybe like metal or something, you would like a bump node, so it reacts to light. Let's go into the UV editing tab now, because the wall is obviously stretched. I mean, obviously it doesn't look like that. So you're going to select all of these by pressing A on your keyboard. This is either in the line mode, the face mode, or the vertex mode. Press A. You want to left click on this left section here. Also press A. Press R to rotate. For precise integers, you want to type on your keyboard. I'm going to type -90 to make them face up. All of the textures that I use in this video will be included in the description. So scale this, press S on your keyboard, and scale this to the size you want. I'm going to make it be precisely on that edge here. Maybe around somewhere like there. I'm not going to be perfect because I want to get this done and fast so you don't have to wait. Okay, so we have that now. Let's go back into layouts and go in Eevee. Here we go. Let me set the render engine into cycles for later. Okay, so now what we're going to do is do these separators. So press Control R. Oops, I'm not in edit mode. Go into edit mode first. And then you press Control R. You'll see these yellow lines. You want to hover over a location to where your cursor makes, see this yellow plane that is slicing through the middle? Left click on that and put it down low, like somewhere around here. I'm gonna do 0.9. I'm gonna do 0.9. So now we have little new vertexes that we can mess around with for the separators. Let's actually move up this wall to where it meets this floor. So press G, press tab twice to go to the Z coordinate, move that up by 1. Now we are on this floor here. Go back into edit mode. We go into face select and select all of the faces at the bottom here. So now what you're going to do is go into shading, make a new texture on the right here, and do new, this plus, add new, make this be called separator, and assign it. For the base color, we're going to be using the wall as a base color. You open the base color, press the eyedropper tool, and left click on that. So it's going to take the same shade of color as that, but we don't actually want it to be the same shade. So we're going to make it a little bit darker. And we're going to turn the roughness down. Actually, no, we're going to turn the roughness up so it's not reflectable. And we're going to add a bump to that. Okay. Now, go back to layout, and with the face select, as you should have already selected them, press E for extrude, and then press S. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, in case you're confused, when you extrude these, press right click after you're done. So, actually, I didn't select all the faces, but after you do select all of these faces, when you extrude, don't left click, you want to right click, and then you can scale. You can press S. So if that wasn't working for you, that's why. Sorry I didn't mention that in the beginning. This is going to extrude these walls here. I feel like it's not assigned. Never mind, it is. So we're going to extrude these out by just a little bit, not too much. I'm going to do 1.06. I'm going to do 1.06. You can do whatever you want, what looks right. And let's assign the material to these top faces now before we bevel, and it's going to make a bunch of segments, and we don't want to deal with that. I'll make it be the separator. There we go. And now we're going to select the edges, which you can do Alt left click and it will automatically select all the edges for you. So that's kind of cool, huh? Now that we have all the edges selected, you can do Control B, and look at that. That is a bevel. You can scroll. It makes more segments. Obviously, the more you put in, the more smooth it's going to be. So we want something that's right around there, maybe a bit less. I'm going to redo that. Something around there. That looks like a separator. So now we have that done. We're going to get onto the ceiling now. So press 7 on your numpad. If you don't have a numpad, just get closest to the top as you can. And we're going to make a new plane. And this is going to be called the ceiling. So press F2 and call it the ceiling. It's not going to be called ceiling tile or ceiling lights or anything, because that's going to be specified in with the materials. So first of all, go into the tab or edit mode and right click, subdivide. open this arrow, and number of cuts, we're going to do 2. You can do more, like 4, just make sure it's even. I'm going to do 2. And now, select a face, or I don't think you can do multiple faces. No, you can't. Dang it, that kind of sucks. Select one face, press I on your keyboard, and this is called the Inset tool. What you're going to do now is type in 0.02, or whatever value makes you feel right. I do 0.02 because that just looks the best for me. So again, you press I, and for the value, 0.02, or whatever you want. You just keep selecting all these faces, and oops, I didn't mean to do that. Keep selecting all these faces, and you just keep doing that. And it is the fastest way to approach it, I'm pretty sure. You could use an array on each square, but I'm pretty sure that would take longer. It would take longer, but it doesn't take as much work. Here we go. We've already done it. Let's move it up to the top. What you can do is turn on the snapping, do vertex, and if you try and grab it, see, it'll move up there. So that's cool. Oh, I forgot to put in the carpet. We'll do that later. Back up here, we have our subdivisions now. So now select each separator here, each face that is not one of the big panels. This will be your ceiling, I don't know, light separator or something along the lines of that. I don't know the actual term that it is called. So let's select each one. It doesn't take that long, as you can see. I'm already done. So I'm not quite sure why that was selected. Now we have all of these selected. Let's apply the material that we need. So add a new material and call it tile separator. You can call it anything you want. Assign it and make the base color. You can mess around with this later, but I'm just going to do that for now. The roughness, you're going to have that all the way up because it's not going to be reflectable, I don't think. Actually, I'll have it a little bit reflectable at 0.2. And that looks good. I'm not quite sure what that does. Emission. Okay, so we're going to have it just like that. Make sure that didn't screw up anything. Okay, so make sure this is assigned, and we're going to move on to these now. And this is going to be the actual tiles. If you're at school, those tiles above you, they're usually going to look like this. Apply or select all of these, every one except the middle one, because the middle one would be a light. Go into shading and bring in your texture just like this, and bring in a bump node as well. Make sure you apply it because it will not take effect if you don't. Normal into normal, and yes, assign. So in UV editing now, we're going to do exactly what we did to the walls. We are going to scale it up to where it looks about right, maybe around there. Okay, that looks good to me. Okay, so now that that is done, we can actually do the light in the middle now, because now we did the texture for the ceiling. So let's select the middle one, and what we're going to do is make a new material, call it light, and scroll down, you'll see the emission. Make that all the way white, and the emission strength will be higher. We need to apply it first. Apply it and make it white. Obviously you probably don't want it to be that bright, but it's just for testing purposes. Let's go inside. Let's see how that looks. Looks pretty bright to me. Maybe I'll do 15 for now. So let's go back to the top. We're going to make a new plane, which is going to be the carpet. And this is where it starts getting to look like the backrooms now. So plane, and I'm going to size this up by 20. Remember that number, 20. And you can delete this camera. We're not going to use that camera ever. And since it's going to be your carpet, we're going to make a new material. Plug in your carpet texture to base color, just like the wall. Add a bump node, like that. And now what we're going to do is go into UV editing and do exactly what we did to the walls and the ceiling, and just make it look more natural. Always scale it up, do not scale it smaller, because if you scale it smaller, the texture loses detail. So there you go, it is a lot bigger now. What we're going to do now is make it not look so repeated. If you look at it, here, let's turn the roughness up real quick before I get on ramble. Roughness up. So if you look at it, there's a lot of repeating segments. You can see there's like a little spot right there that repeats and repeats and repeats. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a bump node, or not a bump node, what am I thinking? We're going to add a noise texture node. Not white noise, noise texture. We'll bring that into a color ramp. Both of them will be into a color ramp. Factor into factor. And mix RGB. This will go into here. Oops. That will go into here. Okay. And then color will go into base color. So now what this is doing, we need to assign the colors first. So for the carpet, you usually want it to be, let's turn the factor all the way up so we can see only the carpet first. I want it to be a little bit yellowy, like the backrooms, just like that actually. I'm surprised I got that first try. You want it to be a little bit yellowy, just like that. Maybe a little bit darker if you want, but I'm gonna have it bright. For the noise, let's switch it to about 0.5. And for the noise, you want it to also be somewhere around that kind of color. But you want to mess with the noise, so scale it up. So the spots are here. Let's turn the factor all the way down so we can only see the noise. Wait, let's make this black. The first node, or the first color is going to be black, and the second one is going to be the yellow one. Like that. So, let's maybe bring this in a little bit. No, let's bring the black in. So this is going to make the spots in the carpet. Like that. Maybe bring up the scale, bring down the scale. Completely up to you. You just want to make it to where the randomness is a lot greater. Maybe bring up the detail. I'm going to bring up the detail. And put the factor at a spot where it looks better. See this now? Maybe a little bit more yellowy. Just like that. And now you have backrooms carpet that doesn't seem as repeated as before. Obviously you can still see the spots, but it just makes it a lot more. It makes it more different. You can put the factor to whatever you want to be. I'm gonna put it. That looks good. 0.875. And let's get onto the ceiling now. Let's go into cycles to see what it looks like. Okay. Bring the ceiling. Make sure you have snapping on. And you're going to bring the ceiling to one of the corners. Make sure it snaps perfectly to that corner. Bring it up to your ceiling. So we're going to do G. Cycle to your Z coordinate by pressing tab twice. 1, 2. and bring that up by 2.5, which is what I did for my ceiling. Since I brought up the walls in the beginning by 0.5, I'm going to do 2.5. Usually it would be 2 if you are working with a regular cube. So let's apply an array to it. Under the modifier, which is the wrench, add a modifier called array, and I'm going to do 20. So that number I told you to remember earlier, 20, is because I scaled up the carpet plane by 20, so it's going to stretch by that amount to get to the very end. And now we're going to apply it, add another array, but this time it's going to be for the y factor and not the x factor. Make it count 20, and in this case it's actually going to be -1 because I want it to go the other way. Here we go, just like that. If the light is too bright, you can change it. Personally, I do think it is a little bit bright, but it doesn't have to be that way. So here we go. We have, I'm actually going to turn on denoising so it clears up a little bit. So here we have the ceiling, which is filled with those three materials: the tile, the separator, and the light. So now this is going to be the foundation for our Backrooms video. Let's make an outer wall. Make sure you have an edit mode. Make sure you have live unwrap on and correct face attributes. So now what we're going to do is we're going to press S and we're going to do Shift Z. Actually, not on this pillar. Actually, we're going to Shift D. We're going to make a new column. And now we can go into tab, press tab, and press A. This is going to select everything. And now press S, Shift Z. And now as you see, if we scale it up and down, it does not stretch the faces, or the texture. We're going to scale that by 20 so it meets the edges. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, since on the inside, can't see it out here, there's going to be a little gap because we extruded and brought out that separator. So what we're going to do is we're going to move the whole wall down and then grab the top vertices up. Or actually, easier way to do it, go into wireframe mode and go on the side, so press 1, press tab, make sure you're in your vertices select, and select this bottom here. And then we're going to do G, cycle to your Z coordinate by pressing tab twice, and -1. That's going to bring all those down, and it's going to keep your textures really nice and make it meet just the bottom, and it's not going to be any wonkiness going on. So now we can actually design the layout for the Backrooms now. Let's hide the ceiling. Let's go into wireframe, go to the top, and now is where we start making weird structures or weird things. Just kind of sprinkle the blocks around. In order to make walls, select all the vertices and shift them over by 0.19 looks nice. Maybe 0.18, no, 0.19 looks nice. Make it a little bit longer, just like that. And then you can duplicate that. Oops, actually, I will not duplicate the vertices, because if you duplicate the vertices, it makes it to where it is the same object. So don't do that. I'm going to go back out of edit mode and duplicate it, and then we can grab it and rotate it and do all that stuff. Rotate it by 90. Now you have walls. If you want to make corners, they're a little bit complicated. I'm not actually sure if I'm gonna be able to do it myself, but I'm gonna grab the corner and I'm gonna hope that here. I guess if it snaps over here, I'll just do it over here. Make it snap to that corner. Go into wireframe mode, and you're gonna delete all the faces where it intersects. So highlight all of those faces, and then delete the faces. So it's going to cycles. You see there's a lot of overlapping going on here. So we're also going to delete those faces. Oh, I just realized there's a bunch of stretching going on. Before you really want to do anything, you want to make sure that this stretching isn't happening. Because if I hadn't known that that stretching was happening, I probably would have gone through a lot of work just to see that it didn't actually work. So let's rotate this by 90. What is going on? I'm gonna go to the top, rotate it by 90. There we go. And I'm gonna grab it and make it snap to that edge where we were at before. If you see, if they overlap, there's obviously going to be texture difference or this kind of weird artifact going on. So we're gonna delete these faces. So go on this wall, delete these, not these ones, but those ones, because the other wall will substitute for that. Let's bring in the other wall. Now we still have some artifacting going on for the other wall, so let's hide that wall and delete these faces as well. And if we put them together, you'll see there's no artifacting happening anymore. First of all, you select both of them, and then you go to Object and then Join. And now they are one. They are one object, and you can name this corner or whatever you want. And just make something that looks backroomsy to you. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing here, but I'm just making a whole bunch of walls, and it doesn't take like any skill on how to do. It's super easy to do. Oops. When you select something, make sure you're in wireframe mode because it selects everything. So just select all this stuff. Just plop a whole bunch of walls everywhere. Pretty much what the Backrooms is. It's just a bunch of friggin' walls. And make sure you have some kind of variety in your walls, because if you don't, it looks really weird. Which I guess doesn't really matter because the whole Backrooms is weird. You can turn off snapping for this, as it will probably get in your way a lot if you have snapping on. Okay, so now we have a little maze or something happening. So let's bring back the ceiling. And now we have this. What we're gonna do now, I'm going to include this file in the description. So we're gonna bring in a motion tracking method, which is an hfcs file. If you don't have the hfcs file format that you can import into Blender, there's something you need to install. I recorded me walking down my street, and it automatically converted it into a motion file, which is insane. It saves so much work, and it's really easy to use. So what we're gonna do now, or actually I'm gonna use the one where I put down a tripod. So let's import hfcs, videos, VHS, projects, tripod. Here we have the camera, and this is, I put down a tripod on my kitchen floor, and this is exactly what it looked like. That's exactly how it was. If you are unhappy with the location of this camera, what you can do is, okay, so add empty plane axis. This axis is over there. Okay, so make the location somewhere near the camera, maybe about somewhere like right there. That's fine. And then click on the camera, click on the axis, Control P, and object. So now what this just did is it parented the camera to the axis. So the axis is in control of the camera now. So you can manipulate the location of the camera. What I suggest you doing is going to the end of your clip and modifying where this location is. So I'm going to make it a little bit higher, maybe look a bit more that way, rotation a little bit more centered, or like that, yeah, or up maybe, just something where you want it to be. This is fine to me. I'm just gonna put it right there. So now what this is, looks like somebody is putting camera on a tripod, and it has real motion from somebody actually putting their camera on a tripod. So what you'll notice though is there's some weird bumping or focusing with the camera, which if you don't want that to happen, click on the camera, go to the camera section, and what you're going to want to do, it's the focal length that's changing. Clear keyframes. And what that's going to do is now you have no keyframes for the focal length, so you can make it zoomed out or zoomed in. I'm going to make it like right there. And actually I'm going to make the axis go to a more interesting spot, because that is just looks like a really boring spot to be. I'll put it right there. Okay. You're going to want it to have motion blur, so go to your scene. Wait, no, maybe not scene. I think it's in here. Turn on motion blur. Go back to your camera. Let's turn on cycles here. And if you want it to have depth of field, you can turn on depth of field and put the distance really low at first when he's putting the camera down. Or when I'm putting the camera down, I guess it was me. So, putting the camera down. And then make another keyframe. And then you're going to make it go out. And then bang. You're going to want this up a little bit. Make another keyframe. So let's look at it in Eevee here. Puts the camera down. Okay, it's in its spot. And the depth of field slowly goes out to where I can actually identify the location. And there you go, really. Actually, first of all, before we do anything, set it to 1440 by 1080. That is, I'm pretty sure that is the standard VHS font. Or not font, what am I thinking of? The standard VHS resolution. Actually, it's 1478. So just like that. The frame rate to 30 FPS. You're going to want the file format to be FFmpeg video. Encoding is going to be MPEG 4. And I'm just going to render an image, maybe right there. And obviously it's not going to turn into a video once I render this image. Make sure denoising is on. You're always going to want denoising. I'm actually going to stop this render real quick to do that. The max samples, usually I do 600 to 1000. I'm going to do 600 here just so it goes by really quick. All that stuff is other stuff that you can look into. Let's go to compositing, use nodes, and what we're going to do is we're going to put in glow or glare. Put in a viewer node, and plug that into here. Hold shift and right click and draw that. You can make these be, I usually do fog glow, and the threshold usually down to like something around 0.7. Okay, and now is where the VHS comes in. So there is a video that I happened to stumble upon. It is a free Blender VHS asset. So this is the video. I actually downloaded it just in case they deleted it or something. It makes a normal video go from obviously normal to something like that. Isn't that such a drastic change? So you're gonna want to install this and drag the blend into here, append, go to node tree and VHS effects. So now when we type in VHS, it's there, and you can do whatever you want with those. View, let's put this out a little bit. Okay. I actually think that the UV mapping for the walls are a little bit too big. Wish I would have went back and put them smaller. Anyway, so that is pretty good. We're missing one thing though, which is distort the camera, lens distortion, and we're gonna put that before glare. We're gonna make it fit and put the distort to 0.2. So it's gonna make it look like it has maybe like a fish-eyed kind of lens, you know. Maybe 0.1. I don't want it to be so zoomed in. Although of course we could just go back to the camera and make the focal length a little bit more out. Go back to compositing, make it 0.2. Anyway, there you have it. That is how to make the Backrooms in Blender. Let's render this as an image. Let's see what it looks like. At first it's gonna do all of the lights and stuff first, and then it'll do the compositing at the very end. As you know, compositing is one of the final stages to something. Okay, it is done with the picture. Imagine your the picture being animated. Of course, it is a image. It's not going to be an animation, but that's what it looks like. And I honestly I think that's pretty close to the original video. I hope you guys enjoyed teaching you the Backrooms in under an hour. So I will see you guys in the next one if I do make another one. Goodbye.